Welcome, everybody, to this evening's Let's Talk About It. We have this discussion every Sunday, 5 p.m. West Coast time, 8 p.m. East Coast time, where we talk about a different topic that affects the Black community economically. This week's topic is going to be lending over borrowing. Lending over borrowing. But as always, we're going to start with the disclaimer, and I'll go over it real quick. That information provided is strictly for educational purposes only. We strongly encourage you to consult with licensed financial advisors, attorneys, and tax professionals before making any significant financial decisions. And though I do have decades of experience, I am not a licensed or registered with any regulatory authority. And with that, we are going to begin with an overview video. So let me cue that up. And here we go.
All right, today we're going to break down a really powerful presentation being shared with CPIN members and guests. And it completely flips the script on how we think about community finance. The big idea? What if instead of always being the ones borrowing money, we became the ones providing the capital? Let's dive into this model for building wealth, which is all about shifting from being borrowers to, well, becoming the bank.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to start by unpacking the borrower's trap and really understand why the current system can keep us stuck. Then we'll talk about the new mindset that's needed. After that, we get into the nuts and bolts of becoming the bank with something called a lender's flywheel. We'll look at the discipline required to protect the community's money, check out the blueprint for growth, and then wrap up with how you can get involved.
Okay, first things first, let's get to the core of the problem. The traditional financial system, the way it's set up right now, it's just not designed for our communities to actually build and hold on to wealth. In a lot of ways, it's actually built to do the opposite.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Every time you make a payment on a car loan, a mortgage, a business loan, you're paying interest. But where does that money go? Does it get reinvested in your neighborhood, or does it just leave and never come back?
This slide just lays it all out so perfectly. Look on the left. That's the traditional system. All that interest is just flowing out, constantly draining money from our households and our local businesses. But now, look to the right. The community model is about creating a closed loop. It's about recycling that wealth, keeping that interest right here, where it can actually strengthen our own economy.
So, to put it plainly, the current system fails us for three big reasons. First, like we just saw, those interest payments literally weaken our economic foundation. Second, big banks have one main goal: make money for their shareholders. Community empowerment isn't really on their radar. And third, it puts us in a powerless position, right? We're always waiting for someone else to say yes instead of being the ones making the rules.
So what's the fix? Well, it starts with a huge shift in mindset, a complete change in how we see ourselves. We have to go from being just consumers of credit to becoming the actual providers of capital. This is so much bigger than just money. It's about taking back power and control.
And this says it all. Having access to someone else's money is one thing, but owning the system, owning the bank itself, that's a whole different ballgame. Ownership means you get to set the priorities, you define the rules, you control where the money goes.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do we actually do it? How do we become the bank? The answer is a really powerful concept that CPIN calls the lender's flywheel. Think of it as a self-sustaining economic engine that we build ourselves. You know, what's so cool about this is how simple and powerful the idea is. The lender's flywheel is basically a virtuous cycle. Capital comes from the community, it gets loaned out within the community, and then the profits are poured right back in to make the whole thing bigger and stronger. It literally feeds itself.
Let's break down how it spins. It all kicks off with step 1, pooling our money together as a community. Step 2 is absolutely key. Trusted local leaders underwrite the loans, using their real-world knowledge. Step 3, that money gets put to work, funding local businesses and projects.
And then step 4, the returns, all that interest, get reinvested to start the cycle all over again, but stronger every single time. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's put into practice with real, tangible financial tools. We're talking community bonds that members can fund for specific projects, direct private loans to help our local businesses grow, and even a structured, safe system for member-to-member lending. These are the gears that make that flywheel turn. And it's all about transparency. Check out the member-to-member lending setup. It's not a guessing game. There are clear risk tiers, A, B, and C, with interest rates that make sense for that level of risk. This is a disciplined system, and it's designed to be fair to everyone involved, both the lender and the borrower. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds great, but is it safe? How do you protect everybody's money? That's where this idea of guardrails comes in. It's all about building a system that's not just powerful, but also really responsible and resilient. The first guardrail is all about making smart, data-driven decisions. They use the time-tested 5 C's of credit. So they're looking at a borrower's credit history, their capacity to repay, any collateral, the economic conditions, and something just as important, their character. This is not about lending based on a hunch. It's about being disciplined. The second guardrail is about managing the whole portfolio. You know that saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket? That's exactly what this is. It means setting limits on how much is loaned to any one person or in any one industry. And it also means keeping a rainy day fund, strategic reserves to handle any bumps in the road and keep the whole system stable. I absolutely love this quote because it just reframes everything. Being disciplined with the money, it's not about being cold or restrictive. In this model, being strict with how loans are made is actually a profound act of care. It's how you protect the wealth that everyone worked so hard to build together. And of course, none of this matters if it's not built to last. The whole thing is built on a rock-solid foundation of legal compliance. We're talking know your customer rules, comprehensive disclosures, regular reporting, the whole shebang. This is about building a legitimate, professional institution that can serve the community for generations. Okay, so we've got the model, we've got the guardrails to keep it safe. So what's the game plan? How does this vision actually become a reality? Let's check out the blueprint for how CPIN is rolling this out. And it's a really smart 3-phase approach. Phase 1 is all about laying the groundwork: education, developing policies, getting all the legal documents in order. Phase 2 is the launch, when the founding members pool their capital and the very first pilot loans get made. Then, once that's proven, Phase 3 is all about scaling up, using data to get even smarter, with regular audits to make sure everything stays on track. And never, ever underestimate the power of us coming together. This slide just makes it so real. $1 million. That seems like a huge number, right? But check this out. That's just 1,000 people chipping in $1,000 each. 1,000 for 1,000. That's it. Imagine the incredible impact that kind of capital could have when it's put to work right here at home. So, all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of this whole thing. This isn't just an interesting idea to talk about. It is a direct invitation for you to get in the game, to take an active role, and to become a leader in building your community's economic future. And the path to get involved is laid out plain and simple. It starts with applying for membership, but look at step 2, complete the finance courses. It's not just about money, it's about knowledge. You get empowered first. And from there, you can join an investment club and start putting these principles into action. This right here, this is the mantra. This sums up the entire shift. Be the lender, not just the borrower. Set the rules, don't just follow someone else's. And do it all for one crucial reason: to keep the interest, the wealth, circulating right here in our community. And we're gonna end on this final, powerful thought, because it says everything. This model is a declaration of economic independence. It's about being done waiting for someone else to come and save the day. It's about realizing that the power, the capital, and the leadership we need, it's already here. We are the rescue.
Okay, so let's jump to the presentation. Lending over borrowing, building wealth as leaders, from consumers of credit to providers of capital. If anyone has a question, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in at any time. This is not going to be a long presentation at all. I'm just going to hit on a few of the main points. So we went over why borrowers first keeps us stuck. And this is probably something that a lot of us don't think about when we make payments on loans that we borrow, is we're paying some sort of interest, right? But that interest doesn't stay within our community. Um, it leaves our community. It's not reinvested in our community. There's less than 20 Black banks in the entire nation. The majority of us don't bank with Black banks. And so we bank with major banking institutions that take our interest and return it to shareholders. And so that's just money that's leaving our community, and we're not recycling the Black dollar. Also, the banks don't have our best interests in mind. They have their shareholders' best interests in mind. And we are always subject to their underwriting rules. And as history shows, their underwriting rules generally apply differently to the Black community than to everybody else. So when we become the bank, we raise community capital. So we raise money among ourselves. We then underwrite that by leaders of the community who understand our community. We then deploy that capital locally. And then as the interest is paid back, we reinvest that to complete this flywheel. So let's talk about some examples of what this actually looks like. So community bonds. These are member-funded notes or bonds that fund vetted projects, right? They have a fixed rates, defined term. They may be collateralized where feasible. And then, of course, there's transparency and quarterly reporting. So there's actually an example of this type of community bond in the investment opportunities in the member section of the CPEN network for the No Backboard Basketball League. I can't go into details because I can't publicly discuss the investment terms of investment opportunities, but for members, log in to the members area, go to the investment opportunities, and you'll see the convertible note for the No Backboard Basketball League. That's an example of a community bond. Another option is direct private loans to vetted businesses. Similar to community bonds, but they usually deal with cash flow backed loans with DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio, how much of the net cash flows are available to cover the debt, loan to value caps for asset-backed loans. There may also be different covenants that allow the lender to step in and to take over running the business if certain KPIs aren't met. The main focus here is that underwriting comes first, and then it's the relationship. It's all about discipline. And then the third type is member-to-member lending, done right. So a company that made this model very famous was a company called Lending Club. Lending Club was really the first publicly traded company offering microloans in the United States, where a company might take out a loan for $30,000, a company or a person, and Lending Club would grade the loan from A to F, and then it would price the loan as far as the interest rate, and then it would sell shares for $25 each to fund the loan. So, and they used to do billions of dollars worth of loans until they changed their model a few years ago. And so blockchain is perfect for member to member lending. And so this allows members to lend money to other members that have been vetted, that have been priced as far as risk. And so we are looking to put together the infrastructure for these three types of lending protocols. And that's where CPIN comes into play, providing the guardrails that protect the community. You heard the video talk about the 5 C's: credit, capacity, collateral, conditions, and character. It's about having a set of guidelines on a per borrower basis for the underwriting, managing the risk, always managing the risk first and foremost. And then from a portfolio perspective, this is where you have per borrower limitations. You want to diversify into different sectors and different geographic diversification also. And you want to make sure that you have strategic reserves. Though we're all about managing risk and we're not looking to lose any money, it's unrealistic to expect not to have any losses. And so the strategic reserve is established there to offset losses. It's also there for managing liquidity, which is the ability to issue loans as well as returning people's investments once loans become due, as well as having some operating capital. And love the phrase that discipline is love for the community. We're not just out here just all willy-nilly, just issuing money to anybody, but it's under some strict guidelines. But the most important thing is that the interest that's earned gets reinvested. We always want to do it legitimately. And so we use private placements, specifically the Section 4A2 of the Investment Act. And our philosophy is an education-first approach. We hold these types of discussions to educate the community on why it's important to be the lender over being the borrower, and why it's important to recycle that interest. We have the KYC, Know Your Customer, AML, anti-money laundering protocols all in place, comprehensive disclosures that tell what the risk factors are, and then the reporting cadence, monthly servicing of the loans, and then quarterly portfolio updates. So how is CPIN rolling this out? So the first is through education, policy development, document standardization. And so this is part of that education. The launch. So we have one investment opportunity that we have launched. And so it allows members to pool their capital together. The current minimum is $500. We will be lowering that to $100. And then it's a matter of scaling that once we've proven that the proof of concept works. And so the illustrative scenario is if we get 1,000 members investing 1,000 each, that's $1 million pool that we create. And then we can look at deploying 85 to 90% of that. And then you'll see significant annual interest recycle. So for those who are not members, I strongly encourage you to join CPIN. I'll put the link in the chat and be the lender, set the rules, and keep interest in the community. Once you're a member of CPIN, you'll be able to access the educational courses. You'll be able to view vetted deals. And we stop waiting to be rescued. We are the rescue. And that is the presentation. Nice, short, sweet, and to the point. And with that, I'll open it up to questions, comments.
Hey, Mike. Mark, this isn't necessarily a question per se about the presentation. It's a quest to see if you can share some of your personal experience that I'm aware of. I know last year you got exposed to a whole new world of private financing. That area that I don't think the average person is aware of how much could call it private equity, but not even that, just how you have this private paper going back and forth. And there's this other lending, borrowing activity that takes place out of what the average person, is considered institutional finance. And so in a way, CPIN is cultivating an environment that could be a microcosm of a private financial ecosystem, if you would, that already exists in many different ways in different communities, et cetera. But I think you know where I'm getting at. I'm not trying to be too specific about your business. If there's anything you can share from that experience, that would be great. So I think it'll help people understand that this stuff is already popping in communities all around the world. It's just something we haven't been privy to per se ourselves.
Yeah, and so what Mark is alluding to is the world of private banking. And so private banking is the world of the ultra rich. They have rules that are totally different than the rules that the general public abides by. In order to participate in most of those deals, just to open up an account and to be a private banking client usually takes $25 million. And most of the deals to participate require $100 million. But what it does is they have access to deals that would almost seem criminal. So, for example, overnight lending in the banking system. So when banks are required to have a certain amount of reserves on their books at the close of each day. And if they don't meet those reserve obligations, they may go to their private clients to borrow only on paper their money to meet those reserve obligations. And they pay an interest rate, an overnight interest rate, but it is literally a risk-free loan to these banks just for them to meet their regulatory obligations. And so this is the type of access that the ultra rich have that we as average people um, don't have. I mean, and that's just one um, basic example. The whole idea is that there's 1.5 trillion dollars worth of spending power that we as African Americans have on an annual basis, but less than 2% is spent among Black businesses, and the majority of our money is not pooled together, and it's not um, used in a coordinated manner. And so just imagine if we were to um, organize and pool our money together, and we would be able to then participate in some of these private banking scenarios, for example, that the United States has set up. And it just gives us a whole lot more different options. And that's the whole reason why I even started the Closed Private Investment Network, is to educate us on what the possibilities are and to build the infrastructure for actually implementing it. And Timothy, I know that I believe you've got some experience in this realm. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, actually, on those private banking situations, I've been on the board of directors of two offshore private banks in my life, and yeah, deals of all kinds. You make money on deals of all kinds. And when I ran money in terms of running a registered investment advisory firm, I used to sometimes get called on by the big boys, the big institutional broker dealers that would call and say, "Can you move so much money to our bank for overnight?" And you get favorable rates. I used to also, when I first started out in this thing, I used to start out going after banks and selling CD and going to them and selling money. I would sell CDs and stuff like this. So there's all kind of ways of doing it. The only thing I have with tonight is, for when we talk about it, is we got to start where the most difficult part of it is. Capital, capital, capital. Where do we get to capital? Because listen, every church that's run by Black folks is asking for money, right? I heard somebody say today, "Man, them three offerings, he's taxing us more than the IRS," right? So they ask for money. And since I'm from that background of ministers, as my uncle, who was a uh, big time preacher, said, he said, "Listen, for our people, you got to understand, Black people are into show business. You have to put on a show to get their business." So that's where our difficulty is. It's not a matter of, do we have money? Yeah, we have money. We can get money. We can go ask for money. And quite frankly, what I found out is that when you really get something going, that's when white folks come and say, "Hey, man, I want to get in that game right now. Let's get this stuff going." I mean, come on. BET TV was a good thing. I was there when it started. I was actually there when it started in DC, and it was great. But look at who came along. Sumner Redstone and his family, right? So goodbye. What happened to radio TV One when it started out TV One? The poor sister worked hard and she got it going, and she got her son up in there, lost her husband for the situation. And when they got to the very top to go raise that money, the institutions that came in, they didn't go talk to nobody Black. I was a Black money manager running $3.2 billion. They didn't even want to talk to me, right? Not at all. Now, when BET went public through Bear Stearns, which was actually done by a brother at that time, and he was with Bear Stearns, and he actually did the deal, brother from Chicago. So we sat down, and I'll tell you, we were at the National Association of Securities Dealers, whatever, the NASP, National Association of Securities Professionals here in town, that was formed by Maynard Jackson. I'll never forget it. 1988, we were sitting at the Ritz downtown, and the brother said, "Look, man, I'm with the Bear, and I'm out here I've got to raise some more money because BET is going public." I said, "Man, I want some of that." He said, "Yeah, well, I don't have but 500,000 shares left." I said, what are you talking about? He said, that's all that I have left after I created this deal because all these institutions that bought in, MetLife, everybody else. He said, all the white institutions that bought into the game. He said, and there's only 500,000 shares left. And there were 5 black money managers there. And we divided up the spoils and 100,000 shares each. And I made good money on it because I think I came in at 14, even though original offering was at 12 for the other big boys. We came in at 14, and within a few months, I got out of 54 before everything's changed. So I made a lot of money for my client. But the thing is, here's the brother who actually brought the deal to the table, created the deal, brought it through Bear Stearns, and at the end of the day, he only had 500,000 shares because all the rest of the money had already been sold off to institutional investors. So when you're talking about doing these kind of deals, it's fine. I love them. I mean, I'm a deal junkie. I go crazy for this stuff. Okay, I mean, I do. I'm on it every day. I love it. But we really have to focus if we're going to collect money from our people. How do we do it when the churches are doing it every day, trying to hustle? And our people don't just give money up, like I said. My uncle said, it's about show business. You got to put on a show to get their business. And he used to say that because he said, why do you think I have a nice big house and, and, and the first lady drives a Lincoln and I drive a Caddy? This is way back in the day. He said, I have to drive these cars and look right, wear the right suits because if I don't nobody want to give no money just because I got something to say. You might be intelligent, but that's not the way our people do it. They want to see success, and therefore they give up the money to people, even if it turns out to be a scam. So, uh, focusing on how we're going to get that money, and you just can't be logical with our people. Is what I'm saying. Well, be honest with you, I'm going to be talking very straight about it with white folks, where I've gotten a lot of big money in past working with other folks and helping them. It's all about the logic, right? It's all about what you put in paper. What did you write down on our paper? But our people, they want to have a feeling for it. Now, we can do that, but we have to be able to bring the right people in and make it look right. And again, I always will emphasize that fail-safe team. F for the financial person, A for the accounting person, I for the insurance person, L for the lawyers. And so you have to have that team because without a fail-safe team, you will fail. I don't give a doggone what your business is. You're going to fail without a fail-safe team. Now, if we're going to do it big, then you have to go get somebody if they're going to be a lawyer, they have to be transactional and with a big time firm because that's how money comes. They want to see big money. I mean, I understand it myself. I got a lot of lawyers around, and I'm one too. But all of these lawyers around, but still, I have to. I'm out here trying to hustle Dentons. I mean, I'm trying to get Dentons to be our lawyer on a situation because they're the largest global law firm in the world. So I'm trying to get them so we can try to do something else. So anyway, I'm just putting out there if we're going to do this kind of thing and pull together our people. Remember that black folks love show business. You got to put on a show to get their business. So we got to put on a show that shows them how much money they're going to get and when, right? And not all the underwriting and all the story because they ain't going to hear it. Nobody's going to hear it. What's the first thing black people want to say when it comes to investing? Y'all got some real estate? Because the first thing we were raised on was, well, they ain't making no more land. See, so they didn't know about how the housing bubble went. They don't know about how corporations now, the institutions are going out here and creating opportunities between themselves and within themselves and creating situations where they do it low and they flip it to themselves and they turn around and rent it back out in our communities and stuff like this. I mean, I live in Henry County, Georgia. Man, the apartments are coming. They're here. The communities are coming with apartments ain't nobody ever seen before. And the rents are high, but where is this coming from? Institutional investors are playing the game right. Now, can we play in that game? Yeah, we can. We can do it. But if we're going to play in that game, we ain't going to play with our money, honestly, because our people won't understand it. Now, we can go get some money together from some people, friends and neighbors and family, and maybe take the money, be able to pay for our fail-safe team, to pay the lawyer, to pay the accountant, to pay the insurance person, pay the financial person. Maybe we can, and that'll help us get to a part where we can do some underwriting and sell it to institutions, get our money to be able to make it happen in our community. That's an option. But if we're going to pull it together like you're really trying to do, Michael, where you're really trying to get people to say, listen, we got all this wealth. Let's work together. I love it. I'm with it. That's why I'm here, because I believe in it. I'm for it. Come on. I mean, self-determination is what we're supposed to be about, right? And and self-finance is what we're supposed to be about. And we were all, some of us old people was raised in that stuff, and we know all about it, right? So, but the problem is our people still are locked in, and they only want to go with the people who they think has something. Now, look, Obama didn't even wasn't even gonna get a black vote until all of a sudden white folks did something and saw that, and he won with the white folks in a little bitty area. Then all of a sudden, the black folks, oh, that's good, because up to that time, nobody thought Obama could win. I remember Andrew Young saying, "Oh no, Hillary Clinton beat him, and they got the resources he doesn't." Yeah, right. He eats that now. He can eat that up now. So whatever you're trying to do, I'm with you. But let's focus on that hardest thing. It ain't the structure of the banking. It's the structure of how do you raise that capital. I know a brother who has, they used to have these minority development corporations set up, right? And that government, I don't know if the government still has that, where if you put up 1 million, they would put up 3 million, right, for you. I know a brother that still has one of the original charters of that, and he's been working. I mean, I've known him maybe 10 years, and he still can't get more than the million he's already got. He can't get the charter done because he can't get all the money in there, and he's highly competent. But it works that way. So anyway, I'm gonna leave that on you. How do we go and grab our people to focus on collective activity? How do we put on, what kind of show do we have to put on for them if we're going to use it to collectively do our people? Now I know how to put on a show for white folks. That's paperwork, and that's concept, and that's numbers. And to be honest with you, the best deal going. In fact, I say this: you can get white people to give you the money if you're going to take over somebody else's stuff. So let's say you want to go in the banking game. Fine. Let's go take over somebody's bank and give it a whole story about why we can do it and do it better than the last person that's running it. If you make sense, you get the money. You can get the money if you make sense. If you got to create the relationship and open the door to the relationship and show where it goes. So if you can come in with a serious story and say, oh, let's test the story, and they'll test it. And if it makes sense and they can see the pro formas really work, you can take over anything. I don't give a doggone what it is. If it can be bought and you got a plan that can make it better, institutional money comes because it always has to find some way to make more money. Now, so we can do that game, and that might be where our people work, because maybe we pull our money together so that our people can see that you're working. If I was pulling money for black folks together to work on something, I would say I'm gonna be real cold. I would go get me some mighty whiteys, because the mighty whiteys was gonna make the black folks feel comfortable. They're gonna say, "Oh, look at who they got." Right? So, oh, he got so and so. Ooh, wow, let me get in on that. That's the only way I know how. That's the only way I know how, right? To bring to entice them in. So anyway, never my sermon that old man who's a lawyer who used to do stuff, tell too many old stories. So
Well, Timothy, I definitely thank you for your comments, your stories, and your insight. And I mean, this is definitely an uphill battle, and I definitely understand the concept of showbiz, and we've wrestled with that, and so we'll continue to figure it out. You know, the the greatest economic player in the Black community is the Black church. And it should be a bedrock of the economic engine. And unfortunately, the Black church as a whole has failed us. Now, I'm speaking as a PK, as a preacher's kid. My father was a pastor. Um, my father was unique. My father never took a penny from the church. He just donated 100% of his time. But I grew up among other Black pastors who lived it up while their congregation was in the projects. Um, and I saw the misdirection of funds that were, that came into God's house, but went into the pastor's pocket. Um, in this day and age, the Black church should be where we are educating the Black community about finances, and it should be where we should be talking about pooling our money together. And so, um, yeah, it's a challenge, but this is one of the reasons why we have these discussions every Sunday, and they're archived, and hopefully other people that aren't able to attend are able to watch the archives and hopefully become inspired. Any other comments, questions about this topic? No? Well, this is what is a this is a topic that I've been harping on for decades, um, about recycling the Black dollar and being the lender versus being the borrower. I was involved in Lending Club when Lending Club was um, making billions of dollars of, of micro loans to businesses. And I was like, we can do the exact same thing. In fact, we used to do that um, before integration. Um, we had Black banks that gave out loans to Black businesses and kept the interest in the community. And it's really been the last 50 years that we've gotten away from that. And every time that we try to raise some Black consciousness within the Black community, something comes to stomp it out. And I just hope that given the current political climate, that the Black community opens its eye and sees that um, there is no one that's coming to rescue us. We must rescue ourselves. And so I want to thank everybody for coming to um, this edition of Let's Talk About It, where every Sunday we talk about a different topic that affects the Black community economically. This is actually the fourth of 7 strategies that I laid out about a month ago. And strategy number 5 will be investing in Black businesses. And so Timothy and Mark, I look forward to having you guys on next week as some featured guests to talk about your relative companies, because we need to recycle that Black dollar and make it more than just 2% of our purchasing power. So,
Down with you. I'll see you. I'll be there.
Okay.
Joseph, you have a comment?
Um, Kind of a comment question.
Okay.
My dad was a minister as well, and I was always taught to keep things of the world and things of the spirit separate. And he was another one of those ministers that wasn't taking money from the church. He worked a full-time job, and he worked uh a lot of other side jobs, and he always gave to the church. And sometimes they'd pay him like he was more of an evangelist than anything. People just love to hear him speak. But um he was always reluctant to take even a little honorarium, and I'm wondering how like I'm conflicted because things of the world, money, politics, and that kind of thing, those things are supposed to be separate from things of the spirit, which is the teaching of the Bible, about mercy and kindness and humility. And I don't know how to reconcile those two things in my heart. So like I'm I'm very much into investing. I'm very uh, I'm a very studious person when it comes to things like cryptocurrency and um all the changes that are about to take place, the transfer of wealth that's going on, but I keep that very separate from my religious beliefs, and I know that most of us don't do that. You know, like uh I think it was Mr. Tim was saying how uh we have to put a show on for our people. And if you're not blinging, they're not really interested. So I don't know how I would be able to, from the mindset I'm at, how I'd be able to bring like this show for the church folks and this worldly money, which we all need to survive and thrive. I don't know how to reconcile those two things in my mind. Have you got any suggestions about that?
Excuse me, let me just say this. I'm a fifth generation ordained minister. Was my father's assistant pastor. My daddy was like you are, like yours and like Michael's. He didn't take any money. He put more money into that place, and our family put more money into the church than anybody ever did. He didn't even want to take gas money, right? So it was difficult. I know I didn't get a dime. I put everything I had into it, so I didn't. We didn't take any money. In fact, when people wanted to do, he didn't even do pastor appreciation days, none of that kind of stuff, right? He would say,
Right.
"Hey, you want to raise some money for something? We're gonna raise some money to put kids through school. We're gonna raise some money to pay somebody's rent." That's what his game plan was. Now, it's a perspective that a minister has to have. It doesn't mean that you don't do things because the Bible says, how you like that preacher said, the Bible says, money answereth all things. So if that's what it says, money answers all questions, answers all things, we got to be careful because it's laid out there and it's true because other than talking about spirituality, salvation, it's a, wealth and money is the second most prominent thing in the entire Bible. So you can't leave it. Now, these preachers who grab the money and get paid big money, they have the concept where they use the Bible on their way and say, a workman is worthy of his hire. I agree, they should get paid. I'm not opposed to all that. Just like, you're the CEO of a company, you want to get paid. So, yes, so a workman is worthy of his hire. Now, the problem is that once you get established and get a certain salary at the church, then what about the rest of the people? And I know I'm a member of an 8,000 member church, and one of the people in the church, we were talking, and these people couldn't even go to the pastor to get, and I know he's a good man, and he wants to do something, but he may not know what he's doing and how to do it. But the thing is, they bringing in his money, and he'd rather build another building, a bigger building. When people I've seen have said, if I just had the money for some Pampers for my kids, so I can get diaper Pampers for my two kids, I never forget. I mean, they actually said that. I was sitting next to people, and they were talking about what we're going to do for these kids and these Pampers. And at the same time, he was taking up an offering to get some chairs for a new location. I gave the money to them, not for them chairs. So we have to have a different mindset from the ministers as to what they need to do to elevate the community and how they can do it. And many of them are good people who really want to do it, but they just don't know how to do it and what to do because they're just busy going from week to week putting on performances. right? I mean, they everything that after Sunday's over, they put on performance for next Sunday, and so it's performance art more than anything because I got to put on performance. I mean, come on, once you got, as I would say, once you got a church full of saved people, how many times you got to preach you going to hell? Ain't supposed to do that. You need to be talking about how do we elevate these people? How you take them to another level, right? How do we get jobs for these people? How do we make it so that your life is, in fact, a great marketing expert? I heard a black woman, she's great at it. Megan Church, she said, every piece of your social media should say, this is how it should have something where somebody says, this is how my life changed since I came to this church. That's a show business thing right there for black folks. Putting on a show in a business, right? Is that this is how my life has changed since I've done this. Maybe that's what we do with the network. This is how my life has changed since I've been with the network. And now that gets people's attention. That's a marketing thing that they can grab. So anyway, but don't be discouraged by the fact that you separate one thing from the other because they're really all the same. They're really all together. But you just you just have a higher, more moral value than most of the preachers that you've seen, uh, who just say, "Well, I don't know. I got the money," but they don't have anybody overseeing or managing or helping them to understand what they do. Let me tell you, some of them so lost they don't. Most of them so lost they don't even have a key man insurance policy in place, so that if they died, their wife would get some money right from this. I know because I went around with an insurance person and tried to talk to a bunch of them, and they also so focused on thinking that you as a black person is coming to steal their money. I mean, really coming to steal their money. I went to talk to a certain group of ministers to save Morris Brown. This is way back in late 80s, early 90s, to save Morris Brown College. We knew it was going to fail because they didn't have money. And so we went to them and said, look, we manage money, and this is what I want to do, and this is how we're going to do it. We can structure it. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't listen. They didn't listen. And we said, well, wait a minute. All you preachers got all this land out here. And they, all the black preachers, the churches around that were connected to Morris Brown, had lots of land, and so I brought in a banker from SunTrust, and they said, "We'll give you the loan against the land. You take the money, you can put it into this type of situation." They didn't want to hear it, and we brought in Robinson Humphrey, right? Robinson SunTrust Bank. And this is before they owned Robinson Humphrey, but everything. But it was Shearson Lehman, Robinson Humphrey, and SunTrust Bank, and Royal Asset Management Company. We went to the bank to the preachers, and they said, "Nope, we ain't giving up nothing. We ain't gonna pledge that land. The school either makes it or it doesn't make it. Period." And what happened to Morris Brown? It didn't make it. So it broke. So it's a tough game, but we can. I do believe that if I didn't have faith in it, that we can one day overcome it. I wouldn't even be talking here and sitting here with it. But that maybe that's our faith thing. That we gotta have the faith that we can do that and we can overcome it. But again, I think maybe the concept of the young lady had, I'm just thinking about it out loud, is that this is how my life has changed since I came to the network, and that makes a difference. So, anyway, thank you all for listening. Young man, you're gonna be good. You're gonna be good because you're gonna make your money and you're gonna pay your tithes. I don't believe in paying tithes, but you're gonna pay your tithes or do right with the money, help somebody with the money, and that's gonna make a difference, and God gonna bless you.
Okay,
Yeah.
just from what you just said, I don't mean just the last part, but I mean all of it, because my mind was putting things together as you were offering the knowledge. I think the way I want to look at this is that I will go into the world and make the wealth, just like Joseph went into Egypt to save uh, those people from famine, and then take the wealth and use it to serve the people.
Here you go.
There you go. That's right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that will bring that, because there's two things that'll draw people, our people. One is a show that's been established, but the other is when you genuinely help your community. When you say, well, okay, you're having problems. Let us help you with these problems. Don't worry about, I'm not worried about trying to get your money. I'm trying to help you get what I have, and I'm going to give you some of mine and build you up with what I've earned and what I've learned. So
You're
yeah,
exactly, you're dead on it, 100%.
I've got
Uh,
a little clarity there now.
Look, I have a son who was a Georgia state representative, and during COVID, he went out and he contacted a couple other brothers, and he contacted some other locations and stores, and in his district, now none of the churches would let him use their parking lots, so he had to use. He went out and he got a parking lot. He started using the parks, the public parks, for Thanksgiving, and he did it again at Christmas. He gave boxes of food over 5,000 people each time. And he said, Jesus fed the 5,000, I'm gonna feed the 5,000. And he did it. And he don't have no money for that, but he was able to pull it together, okay, and get it done right. Now, and the people showed up, and he had to have people who showed up to take the stuff out the truck and put it into people's cars. People will show up when they see that you're trying to do something and it's real. So I believe that it'll come. I go to
Hey,
8,000 member church. It's because that particular church really has had an impact on it, despite the fact that the pastor does his own thing the best way he thinks he knows how, and he's really sort of following along the lines of what most pastors have been thought they're supposed to do. Where he really got his people was that he went out there and made sure that they were working jobs. Now they didn't always get what they needed from him, but he was working. They would get jobs. He had after school programs. Now it wasn't even his program. People in the church would just do it themselves. The men would get together and go to a school and working with the schools and the kids after school. Some of the women got together and they would go give teachers breakfast at a school. The church didn't put up the money. The people decided on themselves to do that. So collectively, they started doing this. Now, he's a pastor, so he gets some credit for that, I guess. But he didn't really, to be honest, he didn't really seek the credit for it. But the church people put themselves into the community, and they worked in the community, right? Now, he doesn't do that so much like he did before. His focus now is you ask him for some. If they ask him for some money, he said, "Let's pray on it. Pray on it. People need some
yeah,
prayer."
that's how you make them run.
That's how
Let's
you make them
pray
run.
on it.
That's right.
As
So he's
soon
like,
as you say that, they'll run away, and that reaches farther than just money.
exactly, exactly. So
So,
we'll be fine with
so,
it.
so let's give Leroy a chance to speak. Go ahead, Leroy.
Yes, I'll be very quick. And I may not be able to offer any solution, but I want to say two things. One, I am a former pastor. And two, I'm the former interim president of Morris Brown College. So I understand what Brother Holly is saying. It's a mindset that individuals have sometimes, regardless of what education they have. It is the mindset of understanding finances and how finances relate to spirit itself. And I, for one, have reconciled within myself how it all worked together, but I won't belabor that tonight. I just want to make those 2 points. And I'm happy to be on the call tonight.
Small world, very small world. So, so Joseph, we'll end here. That I believe that there there is no separation between a person's spiritual life and their business life, right? Because it's all wrapped around your character. And so there is nothing wrong with making money as long as you do right with that money. Money is just energy. And so to make money, to take care of yourself and your family, and then to take care of your community. Um, and so that's 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 the thing that I have with current churches is that I believe that they should be doing more in educating the Black community on the economic impact that our financial behavior has on our community. Because again, they are the largest organization, and both by population and by money wise of the Black community, and I think that they should lead by example. So with that, we're going to call it a night. I want to thank everybody for coming. Hope to see you next Sunday, and hope for you to bring a friend. Stay blessed and stay safe.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.